Hey brothers, how you doing? I apologize for missing last week's weekly workout. Things were very intense over here, and I know that you understand that, and I appreciate that. I wanted to give you a real life example around confusing communication that happened to us just a week or so ago. So while we are not on shift, we are very often training, we are doing exercises, so on and so forth, which is why I didn't get the weekly workout out. And one of these exercises I want to talk to you about. So this exercise was practicing if we as a town were attacked by a number of terrorists. It's a very interesting thing that's going on over here, is this realization that we had been training for a certain thing, and then on the 7th of October something else happened, and the Israelis are unbelievable at learning very quickly from something that happened and adding on in that education. And so within a week and a half of the 7th of October, when over 1,000 Hamas terrorists broke through the Israeli border and into different towns, we'd been training for years for 2 or 3 terrorists to break into a town. All of a sudden we had 10s, 20s, 50s, hundreds of them. And so very quickly we've started training, and I don't mind saying this online, they should know, started training and not zeroing in, but knowing how to deal, adapting with that new danger, with that new reality. So this is what our drill was about. Before the drill, we were told by the commander that we need to report a certain thing during that drill. During the drill, one of the soldiers, who kind of does talk a little bit, talk as in, there's not much silence when you're around him, but he was one of the first people to report that thing that we were told to report. And he did it well. He was pretty much to the point, and he reported it. And then another thing happened and someone reported. Another thing happened. And all of these things were things that we were told to report. The commander then said, during like about an hour in, guys, don't report that. We don't have time. Keep the radio open, which, as we know, is very, very important, right? If there's, God forbid, even in a drill or a reality, that's why there's lots of codes that you use, shortenings that you use, so that people understand straight away within a short amount of time what you're saying, right? If you're like, so I saw this car, it's white, it's a Mazda, going at 35 miles, but it's like, hold on a second, someone's now trying to cut in on the radio and understand, is that car in front of me right now or not? And you're in the middle of a long journey story about this car, right? So there are very specific ways of reporting things, which is very, very important. But the commander then jumped on and said, don't report that anymore during this drill, we'll talk about it later. And straight away, within my mind, I was in two minds. I was like, okay, the commander has seen something that wasn't working properly, even though he wanted it earlier. That's fine. Adapt. Don't report that specific thing, and we'll talk about it later. But something inside me felt this negative feeling for the soldier that was told not to report it when he was told already to report it. And it gave me a flashback into my own life with my wife. I'll give you the example. There have been times in our life, probably like everybody, that finances have been quite tight. And I've turned around to Meg and I've said, Meg, we need to save money. We're not spending beyond what we need to spend. That's it. And then maybe a week or two later, I see that she's stressed. I see that, things are falling apart a little bit, and I'll go, okay, let's order in for dinner. Now, I know in America that is, for a lot of people, not a wild thing to do, but in Israel, we maybe order in once every month, maybe at the most, right? So it became confusing for Meg, because she's like, hold on a second, we're either trying to save money or we're ordering in. Which one is it? In other words, the command, just like the commander had said, I want you to report XYZ, and now he changed his mind in the middle of the drill. Which one do you want from me? And the reason that I say at that time, you know what, Meg, let's just order in, is because I see her stress and I want to lessen the stress. But at the same time, it's confusing to her, because I, as the commander, said I don't want to spend extra money, and then I changed my mind and we're spending extra money. This is something that as men we need to be really, really conscious about. What are the mixed messages that we are sending, maybe about money, maybe about our relationship, about communication, about sex, about a whole lot of different things? What mixed messages are we actually sending our wife, our children, the people around us? Our children, let's give another example. No, sweetheart, you can't watch that. That is not for your age. And then like 2 weeks later, you're like, oh yeah, here, take a look at this thing that I saw. And your child's like, hold on a second, isn't that the same type of thing that you told me that I shouldn't watch? Right? What mixed messages are we sending our children? In my book, which will please God come out one day, it talks about cheating, right? Husbands and wives cheating on each other. And I talk there about it being so much a part of society that we cheat. Like, how often have you told your child, do not cheat on a test, and then another time tell them, you know, the other day, I didn't pay the bill because whatever. You're cheating as well, right? So I've actually been thinking about this a lot. What is a mixed message, especially from a commander down, a father to children, a husband to a wife? And what is the ability to adapt and change to the reality that those following you need to be able to follow you without questions in that specific time? I've got a whole lot of examples of that, of when I've just told my children literally in a time of danger, do this, and they're questioning children. They're like, hey, Abba, why do we do this? And why do we do that? And why do you say this? Why do you say that? But when I put on a certain voice, they know there's no questions. It just happens. And I think that in a world of lies, in a world of deception, in a world where so much is not true, it becomes really, really difficult for people who are following somebody to follow them no matter what, specifically when they change their mind on something, like, you know, the examples that I've given. You know, we're not going to spend, now we're going to spend. Hold on, that doesn't make sense. My commander, I want you to report, now I don't want you to report. So how do we get through this as fathers, as husbands, as CEOs? The way we get through this is that we are truthful and we are real and we are upright people. When we are truthful, when we are completely upright people and we do the right thing, then people follow us. They may be able to, or want to ask afterwards, hold on a second, why did you make that decision? Why did you change your mind? And when you have no problem telling them why, because you've got nothing to hide, well, then they're going to continue to follow you even when you do change your mind. But when you change your mind, God forbid, because of a self-interest, because you want to hide something or a mistake that you made, then you as a leader become absolutely unreliable. And that's when people keep questioning and don't want to follow who we are. So in summary, as a leader, sometimes we need to change our mind. Sometimes we need to be dynamic. Sometimes we need to say, hey, I want you to report this, and 3 minutes later go, I don't want you to report that. And our soldiers don't need to ask us the questions there and then. They can ask us later because they respect us, they honor us, but at the same time, they're not going to push back in a time of danger or in a time of real need. The same thing with our kids, with our wife. If we are upright men, that we deserve that respect because we've earned it of the decisions that we make, well, then we're going to be followed. If, God forbid, we are not upright, if we use that leadership position as power rather than responsibility, no one is going to follow us anyway.